Hi, in this video we're going to be looking at a few methods for recoding string variables in SPSS. String variables can be tricky for analysts to deal with. One of the reasons is the SPSS output displays the values of string variables in alphabetical order. So if you're dealing with a variable where the order is important, such as with a rating scale, here we can see the values of the rating scale are displayed alphabetically rather than in the order in which they were shown in the questionnaire. And that may require us to use a recode procedure to reorder these values so that they're shown correctly. Another reason is that a lot of statistical procedures in SPSS simply don't work with string variables. They simply won't appear. You can't take an average on a string variable, for example. A third reason is that when we're referencing specific values in the string variable, we need to spell those values exactly and in the correct case with quotes, which can be a bit tedious. So if we're doing a select statement where we're filtering the data by the values of a particular string, we'd have to spell that string exactly with the spaces and special characters correctly and exactly displayed, which can take some time to get right, as opposed to a numeric outcome where we can simply say just point it to that specific code. We're going to look at three alternative methods for recoding string data in SPSS. In this first example, we're going to look at automatic recode. Automatic recode is specifically designed to turn categorical string variables into categorical numeric variables. So it turns strings into numerics. And it can only be used to create a new variable. You can't overwrite the existing one, so you may have to delete the old one. But you don't have to specify the values of the string variable during the recode. That's the automatic benefit. Instead, it will automatically create numeric codes for each unique string value that it encounters, and it will use the string values it encounters to create value labels. However, it simply assigns these numeric codes in alphabetical or reverse alphabetical order. So if reordering or controlling the order of the values is important, it might not necessarily help much, as you may have to do another recode afterwards to change the order. Let's take a look at it. So here in SPSS we have a string variable already set up. It's actually a rating scale of people's satisfaction with a service. If I right click on it and ask for descriptive statistics, you can see that of course it's displaying the results in alphabetical order. That's not the order that we want. And ideally we want these to be codes with value labels rather than simply string descriptions, where the codes reflect the order of the rating scale. So to do that, we're going to go to transform, and we're going to go to automatic recode, and we're going to define a name for our new variable, because obviously we can't overwrite the existing variable, we need to create a new one. I'm going to call it satisfaction auto recode. Define that as add new name, and you'll notice that you've really only got two controls here. You can start the recoding from the lowest value, that's alphabetical order, or from the highest value, that's reverse alphabetical order. There's not much else we can really do at this point. If there are any blanks in here, we can check treat blank string values as user missing, and it will treat any blank strings as missing values. We click OK at that point. Nothing seems to happen. It jumps to the output viewer, but in fact what it's trying to show us is that in the log output it's created here, which is hidden by default, it's actually given us a little report of how it's coded each of these unique string values, and you can see that they're coded, of course, in alphabetical order. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where don't know is actually coded as value 2. If we go back to the data editor, we can see that here is the new variable, here are the values, and here are the value labels have been attached. So obviously if we now want to change this, we need to recode it again and move these categories around. So to do that, we're going to go to transform again, but this time we're going to use recode into same variables. We're going to overwrite this new variable that we've got, and we're going to use a new recode procedure to change and to reorder these codes so that they make more sense. And here I'm going to pick up this new version of this field. As we can see here, it's actually satisfaction auto recode. And I'm going to go to old and new values, and I'm going to define what order they should be. Category 5 should actually be category 1. That's very dissatisfied. Category 1 should become category 2. Category 2 should be 0. That's the don't know. Category 3 stays as it is. Obviously you might want to note these down as you're going along. Category 4 stays as it is. And category 6 becomes category 5. Now I'm reordering it. But of course, the problem now is that the value labels are not reordered. The value labels have stayed in the same place. So now I need to go and change the value labels. And I need to go here and I say, look, 0, don't know is actually value 0. Category 1 is actually people who are very dissatisfied. So that's actually down here. Category 2 are people who are dissatisfied. So I need to add that in because I've overwritten it. Category 3 is neutral. Category 4 is satisfied. And category very satisfied should be category 5. And we also need to tell it that the don't know value is actually a missing value. Now we right click and check it again. It looks correct. So a quick recap of what we just did there. We ran automatic recode under the transform menu. That allowed us to create a new numeric variable based on the original string variable. The new numeric variable was called satisfaction auto recode, and it took the values of the string variable and using the alphabetical order assigned it new codes using the original value descriptions, string descriptions, as the value labels. And that creates a new field for us, but of course the field's in the wrong order. So we ran another recode procedure, recode into the same variables, to change the order of these codes. And bearing in mind that doing that doesn't affect the value labels, we found that the value labels are still out of order. So we then went back and changed the value labels so that they reflected the new codes correctly and attached a missing value to the value 0. The second method we're going to look at for recoding string variables is simply using recode into same variables on its own. Bearing in mind that this can be used to overwrite the existing variable, so we don't have to create a new version of it. However, it can't convert that variable to numeric. In this procedure, string variables can only create string variables. So that means that we have to convert it to numeric afterwards. Okay, so returning to SPSS, I'm just going to make a copy of this original field and just rename it to satisfaction. It's an exact copy. It's still a string field, as we can see. And now I'm going to go to transform, recode in the same variables. I'm going to pick up this copy, click on old and new values, and now of course you can see the issue here is that I need to type in each of the values, the string values, exactly as they appear before assigning a numeric value code to them. So now I've completed doing that. Bear in mind if I've misspelled any of these terms or if I've not paid attention, careful attention to things like apostrophes or upper and lower case, this won't work. Let's click continue and see if it works. Click OK. Here's a new field that's been created. We can see that it looks like it's worked. All of the correct values are in there. We've got no string values that are occurring. And we now need to attach, of course, value labels to these codes. So let's do that. Okay, so now the value labels have been attached. We also specify a missing value. And bear in mind, this is still a string field, and we can now turn it into a numeric field. And give it a width of, well, I don't need a width of 1, I'll give it a width of 2 just in case in future we use a double digit in here. And I'll change the measurement level to ordinal. Let's right click and check it. So that's worked. So again, a quick recap of what we just did there. We used recode into same variables under the transform menu. This allows us to overwrite the original string variable, but of course we have to spell the string descriptions exactly correctly in the correct lower and upper case. And then we can assign numeric codes to that, bearing in mind it will still be a string field that we're creating. After we've created that, we can assign value labels, missing values, and convert it into a numeric field, and we've completed it. Now in the last example, we're going to look at recoding string variables in SPSS using a third method, recode into different variables. With recode into different variables, we must create a new variable. We can't overwrite the original. We must also assign a variable label to the new variable. However, the new variable can be a numeric field, but the old variable, of course, may need to be deleted afterwards. Returning to the original example, here we have our satisfaction string field. We're going to use recoding different variables under the transform menu here. We pick up our satisfaction string variable as our input variable, our output variable, the new one that we're going to create. We're going to call it satisfaction num for satisfaction numeric. Note that we have to assign a variable label, or it makes sense to do so. I've actually already copied that from the variable view of the original one. I can click change at this point now to update that and go to old and new values. Now when I go to old and new values here, I can specify what the old value is and what the new values are, just as I did beforehand. And again, I'm going to have to type out the string descriptions exactly as they appear. So having very carefully typed each of these string descriptions in and giving them numeric values or numeric codes for each one, we hit continue and OK. That creates a new field for us. You can see here that it's a number field. It's just numbers inside it. And I might want to remove decimal places. That makes sense. I probably don't need a width of 8. 2. I can change that to 2. And again, I need to assign missing values and attach value labels to each of these codes. And now that we've attached our value labels, of course, we click OK at that point, assign a missing value of 0, change the measurement level to ordinal. There's our new field that we've created here. Looks fine. And all we need now to do is delete the old field. And lastly, a quick recap on that procedure. We used recode in the different variables to create a new variable which we called satisfaction numeric, and we copied and pasted across the variable label and attached that. Then we once again very carefully spelt out and typed out the string descriptions in the original string variable and assigned new numeric codes for those, before finally attaching value labels, changing the width and removing decimal places, and attaching a missing value of 0 to that, deleting the old variable, and then just checking to make sure that the new variable that we've created works.